Hello there, adventurers, and welcome to Wally DM. If you're as excited as I am about Tasha's Cauldron of everything, then you know we have a lot of characters to build. So I thought I would start it off with one of my favorites from the new book, and that is the Genie Warlock. So in today's video, we're going to go over all of the features in the Genie Warlock, and we're going to start with our character build at level 1 and advance her all the way up to level 10. Along the way, I'm going to try to include as much new stuff from Tasha's Cauldron of everything that I can. That's going to include the Pact of the Talisman, some feats, and whatever else that I can drudge up. Few spells maybe. So with that being said, let's dig into this character build, and I'd like to introduce you to Jenaya. She is an Air Genasi Genie Warlock. Now, as we go through this character build, I do need to mention that this is my very first Warlock build ever. So if I did miss a few things or interpreted some things incorrectly, be sure to leave a comment below and set me out right. And also, if there's a few things that you would do for this build to make it a little bit more optimized, then let me know that as well. So let's get started with our ability scores. Now, I took the standard array, and I also used Tasha's Cauldron of everything as far as the optional races go. I deleted, usually an Air Genasi is going to have a +2 to Constitution and a +1 to Dex. Well, I wiped out that Constitution and replaced it with Charisma. That's one of the new options that you can find in Tasha's Cauldron of everything as far as making races more suitable to what you want to play rather than what's optimal for your build. So with that in mind, as far as my Air Genasi goes, I put the 15 in Charisma. I wanted to get that up to 17 because I have a feat in mind later that's going to pump that up to 18 for us. And we also get the benefits of the feat. Now, I took the 13 and put it into Dexterity because I still get the +1 for being an Air Genasi. That's going to give us a +2 to Initiative and Armor class. And I have a 14 in Constitution. I feel for the Warlock, at least this build, Charisma, Constitution, and Dexterity are going to be our 3 main ability scores. The rest of them kind of fall into place at 12 in Wisdom, 10 in Intelligence, and an 8 in Strength. Moving on, I took this Charlatan background because it's going to tie in nice with my backstory that I have planned for Jenaya. She's going to be very deceptive. She's going to try to trick people to get ahead of where she's at, and she's going to try to manipulate people into doing what she wants them to do. So with the background feat and with being an Air Genasi, I came out with 4 skills, and that is Arcana, Deception, Intimidation, and Sleight of Hand. So moving on, let's take a look at the traits that we're going to get as far as being an Air Genasi. That's under here called Racial Traits. And the first one that we get is called Unending Breath. We can hold our breath indefinitely while we're not incapacitated. So that's going to come in really handy, and that's really cool for an Air Genasi not having to be able to breathe. The second one is called Mingle with the Wind, and this is pretty much saying that we can cast Levitate once per long rest. So we can use that on ourselves, but it's also more fun to use it on an object or an unwilling creature. Kind of a cool spell for us to have. If you're not familiar with the new book, there are a lot of new spells that have been added to the different spellcaster lists, and that is also true for the Warlock, and we'll probably pick one of these here in a little bit. Now, becoming a Warlock, that means we have to make a pact with someone, and what better way than a genie? Now, these genies are called noble genies, and they're a lot more powerful than the lesser genies and things of that nature. So that is how they're able to grant magic and allow themselves to be a patron. Now, as far as the backstory for Jenaya goes, I'll probably make it connected somehow where this Djinn is maybe some type of an ancestor or something like that, seeing that Jenaya is an Air Genasi, and there could be some relation there. So at first level, again, we strike our deal with our genie, and I've picked the Djinn. And this also includes an expanded spell list. And the way that it works with Warlocks, and I did not know this before, but as far as expanded spell list, that means you can pick for them. It doesn't mean that you always have them prepared. There are a few classes where you actually always have that spell prepared, which is pretty cool, but that is not the case for us. Now, the expanded spell list for a Genie Warlock is going to be Detect Evil and Good, Phantasmal Force, Food and Water, Phantasmal Killer, Creation, and a 9th level spell of Wish. So that's going to be really neat when we get to it later. Now that portion is granted to no matter which of the genies that you pick, whether it's Dao, Djinn, Ifrit or the Merid, but I picked the Jinn, so in addition to that, I can also choose when I go to pick my spells. I've got Thunder Wave, Gust of Wind, Wind Wall, Greater Invisibility, and Seeming. And Greater Invisibility is the one that I am really craving, and the reason that I picked the Air Genasi and the Djinn. Now, before we get to our spells, let's take a look at what it being a Genie Warlock is all about. And again, we've already looked at Genie Kind. That's where you pick your Genie, and again, I picked the Djinn, which is the air element. But let's pop on down to Genie's Vessel. Now, Genie's Vessel is your patron gives you a magic vessel that grants you a measure of the Genie's power. The vessel is a tiny object, and you can use it as a spellcasting focus for your Warlock spells. You decide what the object is, or you can determine it randomly on the chart. So we're looking at an oil lamp, an urn, a ring with a compartment, a stoppered bottle, a hollowed out statuette, or an ornate lantern. Of course, I'm going to go with an oil lamp as far as my Genie Warlock is concerned. Now, while you are touching this vessel, you can use it in the following ways. Bottled Respite. As an action, you can magically vanish and enter your vessel, which remains in the space you left. The interior of this vessel is an extra dimensional space in the shape of a 20-foot radius cylinder, 20 feet high, and resembles your vessel. The interior is appointed with cushions and low tables that is comfortable in temperature. While inside, you can hear the area around your vessel as if you were in its space. You can remain inside the vessel up to a number of hours equal to twice your proficiency bonus. You can exit the vessel early if you use a bonus action to leave, if you die, or if the vessel is destroyed. When you exit the vessel, you appear in an unoccupied space closest to it. Any objects left inside the vessel will remain there until they are carried out. And if the vessel is destroyed, every object is going to just kind of pop out into an unoccupied space harmlessly around where the vessel used to be. Holy Aladdin, we get our own Genie lamp. We can actually hide out inside of it once per long rest. And starting at level 1, we can stay in there for up to 4 hours. So immediately I just go to the role-playing part of this. We could have Jenaya hide inside of her lamp and be carried through inside a place with no problem whatsoever. Perhaps we're playing just like a trick where a package is delivered, we put the lamp in the package, and we can sneak her inside and without being detected. This is really cool. I mean, I could even see putting our lamp on a table, disappearing inside of it, and then we've got 4 hours of being a spy because we can hear everything that's going around outside of it. So this is an amazing ability, and I can't wait to really exploit it in the future adventure. So that one's called Bottles Respite, and I really enjoy it. Now, the second ability that we get at first level for being a Genie Warlock is called Genie's Wrath. Once during each of your turns when you hit with an attack roll, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to our proficiency bonus. And the type is determined on the Genie that we picked. Again, we picked the Djinn, so that is going to be thunder damage. Now, since this is an attack roll and not just a melee attack roll, that's going to include Eldritch Blast, which is our primary offense. So when we roll for our attack roll and we hit with an Eldritch Blast, we're going to do at first level an extra 2 points of thunder damage. And that will go up as our proficiency bonus goes up. So it does seem like with everything going on, if our Genie lamp were to be lost or destroyed, that it seems like it would be a world of trouble to lose everything inside it and to get it back. But that's absolutely not the case. If it's destroyed or lost, we can simply perform a 1-hour ceremony and our patron will provide us a replacement. So fantastic news for us there. I'm just super stoked that we can go into our Genie lamp, and not only that, but we're also causing a little bit of thunder damage that is relative to the Djinn. So as you can see by the abilities granted to us at level 1 for being a Genie Warlock, how much I am absolutely loving this character. So much potential. So let's take a look at our spells. Now, we don't get a lot of spells as a Warlock, and again, that extended spell list is just to pick from. We don't always have them prepared. So getting 2 cantrips, I decided to go with the norm for this one, and that is one that is offensive and one that is non-combat related. So the one that I picked, of course, has got to be Eldritch Blast. It just seems to be that this is the spell for Warlocks, and so it is now in my repertoire. And again, just a reminder, my charisma is going to help me with my attack rolls for Eldritch Blast. So right now I'm getting a +5 on that. And if we hit, then one of our genie abilities is going to give us some extra thunder damage. Really cool. And then of course the second one's going to be Mage Hand. I always find great uses to be able to use this cantrip. As far as my first level spells, this is a new one for me. Again, I've never played a Warlock before, so I went with Hex. I thought this would be really cool, and I am very excited to see how it works. Of course, for those of you that are very familiar with Warlocks, you already know the damage that it can do. And the second one is going to be Charm Person. And once again, I did say that I want my character to be a little bit manipulative. She wants to get people to do what she wants. And I feel that Charm Person at first level is going to be one of her methods of being able to do that. So that's all I have for you for my level 1 Genie Warlock. Let's take a look at level 2. So here we are at level 2. Jenaya has 17 hit points, and I did forget to mention that she does have an armor class of 13. This is included with her dexterity bonus of +2 and a leather armor that she is wearing. Now as a second level Warlock, we get an Eldritch Invocation. I have actually picked my first two from the player's handbook because the one I want from Tasha's Cauldron isn't available to me until I reach 3rd or 4th level. So I picked Agonizing Blast, and that's going to add my Charisma modifier to the damage when I deal a hit with my Eldritch Blast cantrip. So Eldritch Blast is already becoming fairly powerful for me. I have a +5 to hit. I get a +3 for my Charisma as far as adding that onto the damage, and I also get a +2 of thunder damage for being a Degen Genie Warlock. The second one I picked is Devil's Sight, and I picked this because I am absolutely terrified of my character not being able to see in the dark. And with Devil's Sight, we can see normally in darkness, both magical and non-magical, to a distance of 120 feet. So this right here will probably entice me to pick up the magical spell Darkness, which is a 2nd level spell, at some point during my character creation. So at 2nd level, we now have 2 spell slots we can use, and we get to learn a new spell, and this time I pick Thunder Wave. This is from the extended spell list for Degens, and I really like the way that this is going to level, so this will be a nice area effect damage spell for us, and maybe even pushing folks back, so I thought it was a nice pickup. So that's all I have for you for level 2. Let's advance our Warlock to level 3. So at 3rd level, our otherworldly patron bestows a gift upon us, and that is called our Pact boon. Now the player's handbook, there's 3 different boons to choose from, but in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, we get a 4th option, and that is Pact of the Talisman. So of course, I'm going to choose that right off the bat because it's new and it looks like a lot of fun. Pact of the Talisman goes as follows. Your patron gives you an amulet, a talisman that can aid the wearer when the need is great. When the wearer fails an ability check, they can add a d4 to the roll, potentially turning the roll into a success. This benefit can be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and all expended uses are restored when you finish a long rest. Now if we lose a talisman, we can do a 1-hour ceremony and get a replacement from our patron. We can also do this anytime we take a short or long rest, and it will destroy the previous amulet. So if we actually give our amulet to someone else and we don't want them to have it anymore, we just ask our patron for a new one, and there it is. So this is really cool because it doesn't just say us. Now, of course, for the character that I'm going to be playing, Jenaya is going to be all about herself, and she is going to have this amulet, and very rarely will she give this or lend it to someone else as far as to help them out. But I'm sure there could be instances where she would need to do so, especially if it benefits her. So at level 3, we get 2 uses of our Pact of the Talisman, and then we have to finish a long rest before we can use it again. Now at 3rd level, we also get to add another spell to our list, and this can be a 1st or 2nd level spell, but we still only have the 2 spell slots. And one of the things that was hardest for me to learn about Warlocks is their spell slot is always the same. So at this point, all of our spell slots are 2nd level spell slots. And also one of the cool things about it is we can actually get those spell slots back after finishing a short rest or a long rest. So that is also a neat feature as compared to other spellcasters. And with that in mind, I did exactly what I told you I was going to do. I have Devil's Sight, and now my Warlock now has Darkness, so she can cast this, and then she can see through the darkness. So this will help as far as folks trying to attack her, possibly giving them disadvantage, but it also helps conceal her. And again, she's going to be all about being manipulative and sneaky and things like that. So darkness paired with Devil Sight is something that I look forward to playing. Now that's all I have for you for level 3. Let's see some stuff start to happen again at level 4. Okay, so Jenaya is now a level 4 character with 31 hit points. We're going to get an ability score improvement, but rather than doing that, I'm going to choose a feat. Now this is going to be a new feat that you can find in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and this one is called Fey Touched. Your exposure to the Feywild's magic has changed you, granting you the following benefits. First off, we're going to take a +1 to our charisma, and if you can see over here, we now have a charisma of 18, giving us a +4 modifier. The second ability from this feat is that we learn the Misty Step spell and one first level spell of our choice as long as it's from the divination or enchantment schools of magic. You can cast each of these spells without expending a spell slot. Once you cast either of these spells in this way, you can't cast that spell in this way again until you finish a long rest. However, you can also cast these spells using spell slots you have of the appropriate level. The spell's spellcasting ability is the ability increased by this feat. So what exactly does this mean? First off, we get Misty Step, which is by far one of my most favorite spells in the entire game. It's only a verbal component, and we can use it to get out of trouble. I've used it I don't know how many times. Now the second spell that I picked is going to be Dissonant Whispers. Now, I chose Dissonant Whispers for a couple of reasons. The first one is it's a nice damage dealing spell. It's a verbal component only, so if Jenaya gets tied up somewhere or is unable to use her somatic or material components, she now has Misty Step, which is verbal, and Dissonant Whispers, which is verbal. And also it acts as a defensive spell for her, because if the target fails a saving throw, they're going to take 3d6 of psychic damage, and they're going to have to run as far away from Jenaya as they can. So how am I going to set this up? Why did I pick one where they're going to need to make a saving throw? Well, that is going to be tied into my brand new cantrip, also found in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and that is Mind Sliver. Now, as a 4th level warlock, we get to add one more cantrip, and this one I am just ready to use. This seems like so much fun. You drive a disorienting spike of psychic energy into the mind of one creature you can see within range. The target must succeed on an intelligence saving throw or take 1d6 of psychic damage and subtract 1d4 from the next saving throw it makes before the end of your next turn. So I know this sounds a little bit ludicrous to not use an Eldritch Blast, but if we use a Mind Sliver instead and the target fails their saving throw, they're going to take some psychic damage, and then their next saving throw is going to be subtracting a d4. So then we could follow that up with our Dissonant Whispers, or if you have another spell like a Hold Person or something like that, it's going to come in really handy as far as giving them a greater chance of failing that saving throw. So again, Mind Sliver is our cantrip that we're going to pick, and that is from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And then I also picked another 2nd level spell. I almost went with Hold Person, but I decided instead, because our armor class is only 13, to go with something that's a little bit more defensive, and I picked Mirror Image. And if you're familiar with Mirror Image, you get a couple copies of yourself, and there's a chance that if you're hit with a melee attack, that it'll hit the Mirror Image instead, dealing no damage to you. Now, I do have Darkness, and that could be a great way for Jenaya to get away from people and stuff like that if she's in danger, but Mirror Image will also be a great way to be able to protect herself for a few rounds. So that's all I have for you for level 4. I'm super excited to be including this new stuff from Tasha's Cauldron into my character build. And as far as the Fey Touch feat goes, I would probably tie that into my backstory or working with my DM to help it make a little bit more sense. Perhaps I have a trinket that was originally in the Feywild, or we journey there, and that's how I can build into the story why I get the Fey Touched feat. And I'm also liking the way our spells are shaping up, so let's jump into level 5 and see what comes next for Jenaya. So Jenaya is now a 5th level character. She has 38 hit points. Her proficiency bonus has gone up. She gets a 3rd level spell, and she also gets another invocation. So there's a lot of stuff to look at. Now, as far as spells are concerned, I had a little bit of a difficult time trying to pick my 3rd level spell, so I went with the one that was granted to us as far as the extended spell list. I thought I would at least give it a try. My heart was singing Fireball, but I was just like, well, let's try something new. So I went with Wind Wall. Now, again, Wind Wall is a spell that is included in the Genie spell list as far as the gens are going, so I figured her being an air Genasi and having a patron that has to do with air, why not pick the Wind Wall? Now, both of our spell slots, we still only have 2, but they are 3rd level spell slots, so everything now is beefed up. Everything is cast as a 3rd level spell, so that is very handy and should prove to be very beneficial for us. Our spell attack is now at a +7 for our Eldritch Blast, and that is because our proficiency bonus and our charisma modifier. At 5th level, we now get 2 beams with our Eldritch Blast, so we would actually make 2 attack rolls at +7, and we get the 1d10 +4. Now, we do have that ability earlier where we get the extra thunder damage. That is now a +3 because of our proficiency bonus, but we can only apply it to one of the Eldritch Blasts, so only one of the 2 beams. At least that's how I read it. Be sure to correct me below if I'm wrong on that. So with our spells being set, let's take a look at this new invocation. And the one that I picked is from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and it is entitled Rebuke of the Talisman. When the wearer of your talisman is hit by an attacker you can see within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to deal psychic damage to the attacker equal to your proficiency bonus and push it up to 10 feet from the talisman's wearer. Now, while this might not be the best invocation for a 5th level character, I wanted to get that new stuff in here, so I think Rebuke will do just fine for me. In fact, we'll get to choose another one at level 7, and then we'll make that one count as far as the Talisman Pact. That should do it for us for level 5. Let's advance to level 6 and get that next Genie Warlock feature. So here we are at level 6. Jenaya now gets an ability from the Genie Warlock subclass, and this one is called Elemental Gift. You begin to take on the characteristics of your patron's kind. You now have resistance to a damage type determined by the patron, so in our case we are going to have resistance to thunder damage, and in addition, as a bonus action, you can give yourself a flying speed of 30 feet that lasts for 10 minutes, during which you can hover. You can use this as a bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which at this time is +3, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So I was really considering the spell Fly for a 3rd level spell, but our elemental gift from our Djinn is going to give us the ability to fly. It doesn't get any better than that. I'm really loving the Genie Warlock abilities. Now, outside of that, let's take a quick look at our spells. We still only have the 2 spell slots at level 6, but again, we get those refilled on a short or long rest. We do get to pick another spell, and I was looking at those 3rd level spells. There's Fireball, there's a couple more that were kind of on theme, but ultimately I decided to go with Counterspell. I thought it'd be fun for Jenaya to actually ruin somebody's day as they're trying to entwine their arcane or whatever type of magic, and just have that havoc completely nullified with a reaction using Counterspell. And that's all I have for you for level 6. Let's take a look at our character at level 7. So Genaya is now a level 7 Genie Warlock, and with that we get another invocation that's going to bring our total up to 4. And I'm going to dig back into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything because I want to use all of this new stuff, and we're going to pick Protection of the Talisman. When the wearer of your talisman fails a saving throw, they can add a d4 to the roll, potentially turning the save into a success. This benefit can be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and all expended uses are restored when you finish a long rest. So the Protection of the Talisman works for saving throws, and if you remember correctly, when we first picked the Pact, this was a similar ability that worked for ability scores. So it's very nice to have both of those in our bag. And as far as the character that I'm creating is concerned, Jenaya, there's not very often she's going to let someone else wear her talisman, but it's nice to have the option available. Now, as far as level 7, the only other thing that we have to look at is our spells. Again, just 2 spell slots, but this time I picked a 4th level spell, and again, one of the reasons that I picked the Djinn as far as my patron Genie is because of greater invisibility. Now we have greater invisibility and my character is set and good to go. I'm extremely excited about this build, so let's move on to level 8 and see what else lies in store for Jenaya. So Jenaya is now a level 8 Genie Warlock, and I chose to go with the ability score improvement even though there are a lot of feats that I would love to try out in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. In fact, maybe we'll do a top 5 video on those in the near future. But regardless, I chose to put both of my ASI points into Charisma, giving me a 20 or a +5 modifier. Now that's going to affect my Eldritch Blast, giving me a +8 to hit. So that's really, really good. And in addition to that, all of my DCs for my spells that require the target to make a saving throw are now a 16. Speaking of spells, I did pick another 4th level spell, and I just chose Banishment, mainly because it's one that I'm very familiar with, but also because it can scale as we go up in level, targeting more individuals. That's it for level 8. Let's take a look at what happens to our character level 9. Okay, so Jenaya is now a level 9 Genie Warlock, and we have our proficiency bonus that has just been increased, so that makes our Eldritch Blast a +9 to hit. Again, we still have 2 streams of that, so that is really cool. We also get another spell, and we get to pick another Invocation. Let's take a look at the spells first. Now, I am totally lost when it comes to 5th level spells, because I don't do a lot with higher level characters, but kind of just looking through them, I picked Mislead, and this is basically where Jenaya can become invisible, and then like a double of her appears, and I can have that double go anywhere I need it to go unless I do an attack or cast a spell. And that way I can kind of just mislead or deceive other people to thinking that I left. Maybe I can put that out there, and since it's concentration, I'll just keep my concentration on, go in my little genie bottle, whatever I need to do. But I think Mislead will have a lot of different roleplay opportunities for me, and it just seems like the type of spell that Jenaya would know, so this seems to be a lot of fun. Now the second thing that we're going to look at is our next Invocation, and this one is Minions of Chaos. Now this is not a new one from Tashas, this is from the player's handbook, and it has a prerequisite of being 9th level, and you can cast Conjure Elemental once using a Warlock spell slot, and you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. And so Conjure Elemental, and there is a big long list for this spell. And of course, since we're basically an air elemental, being an air Genasi, we have our Djinn being our patron, which is an elemental, so why not have an ability to conjure another elemental? This seems like a lot of fun and a lot of flavor for this character. That's all I have for you. Let's take a look at level 10. So Jenaya is now a 10th level Warlock. She gets her 4th cantrip, and I chose Friends because I think it really matches her personality. But the really cool part about 10th levels, we get our next Genie ability, and this one is called Sanctuary Vessel. So with Sanctuary Vessel, whenever we enter our Genie lamp via the Bottle Respite feature, we can now choose up to 5 willing creatures that we can see within 30 feet of you. And then all of us are drawn into the lamp together. So I could see Jenaya having a few close allies, and she's always told them about this party pad that she has inside the lamp. She has tea, she has all kinds of different things. She's got a stock mini bar, whatever it is that's inside of this lamp. And then at 10th level, she's like, hey, why don't you all come on in and check out the inside of this Genie lamp. So really cool. And then if everyone stays in there for at least 10 minutes, then they get the benefits of the short rest. And anyone that spent hit die to get hit points back can also add our proficiency modifier to that hit point total. So there are a ton of applications that we could use with our Sanctuary Vessel. If we're in a dangerous environment like a dungeon or things of that nature, then we can just all draw in, get our rest, maybe hang out for a few hours and recharge. If we need to all hide out in a place and wait till it closes and all the employees go home, then we can all go in the lamp, hang out a few hours, and then pop out when the coast is clear. So many different applications to this, and being able to drag everyone into our party pad inside the Genie lamp is going to be a lot of fun in our game. Now, while we're done leveling our character for today, I do want to talk about that 14th level Genie feature called Limited Wish. You entreat your patron to grant you a small wish. As an action, you can speak your desire to your Genie's vessel, requesting the effect of one spell that is 6th level or lower and has a casting time of 1 action. The spell can be from any class's spell list, and you don't need to meet the requirements in that spell, including costly components. Once we use this feature, we can't use it again until we finish 1d4 long rests. So we can cast any spell that requires an action 6th level or lower. Doesn't matter the class list. Holy smokes, this opens up everything. We are now a Swiss Army knife with this feature. And the two that come immediately to mind are Revivify and Greater Restoration. Both of them requiring diamonds, both of them usually cast by clerics, and now we can bring someone back to life or cure what ails them. Two fantastic options for our character at this level to be granted this limited wish. But I mean, why stop there? We can cast Heal, or Word of Recall, or Disintegrate, or Fireball, or whatever it is that we need. The entire player's handbook is now at our disposal as far as spells are concerned, as long as they are in action. Fantastic. What a great ability, and I absolutely love this subclass. So that is Jenaya. She's my Pact of the Talisman Genasi Genie Warlock, and I had a great time creating this character. I don't know why I waited so long to try to build a Warlock, but now that I have, I really want to play her in a game. So with that being said, what do you think of the Genie Warlock, and in particular this build? Did I mess anything up? Is there a few things that I missed, and what would you do differently? Please leave a comment below. Let's get a great conversation going. We'll see you in the next video, and on to the next.